Hey folks, Philip B-Man here. Another day of checking bee samples. I found some hives that had some mites in them, so my neighbor came over today and we blasted some oxalic into those hives, and I'll show you about that at the end of this video. In the meantime, I do have, I'm not sure this is interesting results, and it's certainly not conclusive, very small sample sizes, but one of the things that jumps out at me here is in those hives, the 8 hives that I put apivar strips in to see, was there really mites in any hives. One of the things I'm picking up on is that treating hives in these winter conditions inside might be a real slow burn situation, because I was expecting there to be zero brood, a hot ingredient like apivar or amatraz putting in it, that you would see that, in this hive here we had a large number of mites, 300 mites we knocked down on a sticky board, and then I put in a second sticky board just as a follow-up to see what would happen, and I expected that to be essentially zero. And instead we got 50 mites. And that's a hive that when we sampled it was at 5%. So that strip is still killing mites in there. The 2 of spades at roughly half the mite percentage, we knocked down half as many mites the second time as the first time, 19 coming after 42. The 3 of hearts, which had an undetectable level of mites on the alcohol wash, we found 3 on the sticky board after 6 days of monitoring. The second week, we got 16 mites, so actually an increase. And so that's interesting. And then when we follow up sampling on the oxalic, although it's not interesting when I had no mites, but that one hive that had that large number of mites drop, that we just tested on a whim and got lucky with that, knocked down 77 the first week of sampling, put that sticky board or fresh sticky board in, got 20 mites the second. So, I got lots of work to do, but I guess the lesson for today is be prepared to do some pretty long-term monitoring before you give up on anything, because those mite drops are surprisingly slow. I remember when we used to monitor for Varroa using strips in the early days, that you'd have whatever mites were coming out of that hive in the first 48 hours, and that was it. So, but that's a hive in the summertime where there's lots of activity. Those hives are moving around. So in a winterized hive where that cluster is only very slowly rotating the bees in position, it does make sense that it would take longer. So we blasted some more hives with oxalic. I'll tag that video on here, and we'll need to monitor those hives for multiple weeks to see if that effect is significant or not. So that's some food for thought.
That's 17. That's the one that had the most mites in it. So we expect to get lots of mites on that sticky there. That one was about 5% infestation. This one was 3. This one's 2, and I think that one's almost 0. So we'll try all 4 of those. Just in case anyone didn't believe us that we're really shooting stuff out of there. Yeah, it's not going up. Yeah. Cool. Beautiful. Okay.